anyone ever noticed that a lot of artists and the arts seem to be full of lunatic lefties? Anybody ever asked the question why? What if I told you it's not what you think, that it's a feature and not a bug? And in fact, it has everything to do with a movement that was created under Stalin, and that it was an art form more than anything else that was responsible for the deaths of hundreds of millions of people. Really, an art form. I told you that. Would you believe me? I mean, you really shouldn't. Because hell, at one point Hitler called that and used the blame of degenerate art for that very thing. So what if I was to tell you that also? It's a feature, not a bug. Mostly it was due to the fact that I think it was Goebbels or it was Hess really loved modern art, and Hitler really hated it because he was a landscape painter, and he wanted to own all of that stuff, and Hitler kind of helped him do it. Because remember, there's a lot of artists in all these totalitarian worlds. Mao was a poet. Hitler was a painter. Goebbels was fabulous. Hess was also fabulous. And there's a reason Cabaret is a phenomenal show and can't say everything, because art tells the truth by not deconstructing and not falling into the patterns of identity politics, especially when it comes down to things like socialism and its various parts. See, there's a reason why they use the word fascist all the time. The reason why is because anyone who doesn't think like them is a fascist. In fact, there's a really fascinating and very sad story. There's a evening that I think it is mostly in the Yiddish theaters in Israel, but I know that it's throughout Yiddish theaters throughout the world, that they always acknowledge and they revere it, and it's known as the Night of the Dead Poets. Now, it's amazing how much time we spent trying to understand cultures like the marginalized cultures, but we don't really bother to spend nearly as much time anymore, because we've become anthropologically Marxified, where the only thing that matters is the science, and the science is Marxism, and we follow the science. Get it? It's that simple. It really is. Now, not every Marxist or every communist thinks like this, but all of the ones who know and are truly devotees, we're talking like the priest classes. And I will say this, it is perfectly acceptable to call it a priest class, because the Communist Manifesto was in fact first called Theology of Communism. And Engels suggested to Marx that he change it. It's a religion. James Lindsay breaks it down beautifully to really explain it. But it is a religion. To blame Jews on Bolshevism is akin to blaming all Christians on any satanic cult or any of the cults that have been supposedly, who knows if they really do or not, killing and destroying babies and all that stuff. It is that absurd. So, I don't want to hear it, but I will debate anyone. I would love to debate Adam Green. Love it. Because I figured him out. Now, ESG, or whatever you call it. We have to stop calling them liberals because they're not. And Mao wrote an essay called Combating Liberalism. We're doing Mao's job for him. The only people who hate liberals as much as supposedly the conservatives, much more are communists. Liberalism is the absolute weapon that will destroy any communist system. So what do? Same thing they always do. They invade themselves into the institution, alter words in their meetings, and allow that institution to die on its own, to kill itself. And they can do that so well because of the core principles of their ideology. Now, you understand, not every communist is like this. There's the Mensheviks, who are certainly more libertarian than anything. And then there are, communists who never get fully deep into it, and they just really love the idea of giving people access to the most potential, and also artists often really love the idea of sharing their world. I mean, look, selling your art sucks for an artist. Artists are, a heaven would be a world in which our labor was only work done from the spirit and from love and from God. But the truth is, any artist who has any talent, or any artist who has a love of the arts and a study of the arts, will tell you, you remove all encumbrances and the worst things that happen to them, and you destroy art. It's true. Everything, and part of it is because, creating art is the closest thing to being like the creator. We exist where creator doesn't. So the utopia comes later. And frankly, I would really hate to miss out on all this potential for art, right? It doesn't mean that you have to be a suffering artist. That's more baloney. Under Stalin, Maxim Gorky and a few others got together, and they decided, and they created a Stalinist style art form. What was the art form under the Russians? Think of it like when the church, the Roman church, the church or whatever, decided what was art, what was the Renaissance going to be. They set the rules about how things were going to be, depicted, rooted in the same logic. They were very good about, and they're also very patient, and they're very much, they believe as strongly in this stuff as any, like this whole thing about Christian fascism, dude, seriously? No. Worry about them, especially if they become Christian, which is happening. They can alter any single idea into what they want it to be and need it to be. They are so zealous and need it so badly. It's not just like some sunken cost fallacy. It speaks to a part of you that is very human, but also very animal. They believe, and sometimes they will say that letting man go into its most primal, dirty, ugly, violent, that they see that as liberation. There is nothing impressive to them about being a human being. Human existence is just suffering. It's like they took part of the Buddhist stuff and forgot the punchline, because they're not, in a way, they're not capable of hearing it. They are very selfish, narcissistic, and I'm talking about the worst of the worst, right? Usually, the worst of the worst tend to block me very quickly on Twitter. But you know when you see them, and generally they are very, very good at speaking rhetoric. They sound like they know exactly what they're talking about. Put them in front of somebody that knows really what that is, outside of academia, that's lived it, they fall apart. They can't handle it. They see the truth and it's tough when they are kind of in the background, because most people who believe this stuff are truly just useful idiots or true believers. They're not Stalinists. They're not Bolshevik. When I say Stalinist, think I'm saying Hitler. When I say Bolsheviks, think I'm saying Nazi. I'm using it that roughly. But it's a form of socialism. CCP right now is the closest to National Socialism. This is the truth. When you understand that owning the means of production doesn't necessarily have to come first, or doesn't necessarily have to come at all, in order for the system to be in place that will be the process to get you to communism. Communism is not a place you hang out in. It's a goal. Sometimes I'll joke that the end goal of communism is capitalism. Because, understand, there was a joke, there's letters between Karl Marx and his mom. And her dad, and it basically says, darling, I know that you're very interested in this, in studying capitalism. Could you, could you please try to earn some? He was a spoiled little brat. And he was a con artist. He and Engels both saw an opportunity. It's like, there's a bunch of those con artists, it's like a cult, or like, I don't know, some might say the Red Cross, some might say Thousand Currents, some might say BLM, some might say now the ADL, some might say, the GMHC. These groups see an opportunity to profiteer on politics. It's not hard to imagine. And live out their own little fantasy and their dreams of what they wish they had. So, if we imagine that these people who are coming from this Marxist, kind of like education, where, by the way, Marxists and communists are so good at enthusiastically teaching their students. That's why Jordan Peterson pissed them off so much. He got a hold of the student who had never had a great teacher before they got to him. And he fills them with a sense of self-reliance. And they can't have that. That's why he is such a threat, or was such a threat. That's why anyone who is able to grasp and get the interest and spur the idea of learning and try to bring out a potential much more than just say, shooting kids in fucking schools, is a threat. Because the communist enthusiasm is to build the people that will do anything and everything for the cause, including drink the Kool-Aid, like Jim Jones was a communist. Martyr Maid does a great thing on this, by the way. But the reason it's important to understand this is that right now, I think we're dealing with another identity politic. They have switched from, it's all the problem of the whites, of the Jews, of women, of men, of this. And in our country, they are falling back on a very dangerous one. And they've known that it's a dangerous one. Party. There can be only one, right? So the idea of partnernost in socialist realism is essential. Partnernost means party, but it means more than party. It's the essence of party. It's party as if in Christianity the Eucharist is both literally and the body of Christ, but also literally bread. Partnernost is literally party and literally the body of their theology. It carries it. It's the ideology. It's the AI. It's the truth. That in believing in it will bring you to, well, technically death, but, that's part of it too. I mean, seriously, people, the only thing we do equitably is die. Keep remembering that. That's nothing to do with equality and has nothing to do with fairness. It is completely unfair. And it is just to make people more afraid of living than dying. Sound familiar in New York? Serious. And keep in mind, New York is where a lot of the arts, ideas, it's where Trump came from. Love him or hate him. He was new. He's a New Yorker. We make good stuff there. If you make it there, you can make it anywhere, but it's not about just going there and living there and renting there. There has been a desire to destroy what New York does as early and going all the way back, and it's not just the Frankfurt School. This is a misunderstanding. It's part of it, but it's not all of it. I give much apology to the people who have done some great proof about that it's in the arts, but understand there's a lot of stuff that had to be synthesized and figured out how to explain, and they kill so many fucking people that are really smart that when there's nobody left to explain it, they keep doing it, especially the artists and the teachers and the statesmen and even the people who were leaders in there that, like, frankly, Ceausescu, who kept the Soviets out of Romania. He has the legend of a terrible dictator, and I'm not saying he was a good guy, but he didn't get killed by the Romanian people. That was the Securitate. He had no fear of the Romanian people. He knew what was coming for him. To understand this is imperative, because that is the case with every single leader within this system. They're deathly afraid that they're going to be killed unless what it is that they want ultimately is, in fact, to die. Sometimes it's the case. I'll tell you one thing that's really funny. Generally, every single time, like when Stalin died, when Lenin died, they always asked for a priest. Maybe they weren't really, really true believers, and that was the problem. And true communism has never been tried. Oh, honey. True everything is like, listen, utopia, true free markets has never tried. There's no such thing as a pure anything. Except in their warped, twisted, and childish ideology. In their belief in a mechanized universe that they can control because they hate being in the discomforting and awkward, the not knowing why or not knowing an answer. The answer lies in not knowing. Same with religion, all of it. There is no Messiah and you're it. Or enlightenment, there it went. There's a reason that the Tibetans had to be destroyed quickly. There's a reason why the Hungarians in Budapest, had to be destroyed quickly too. It's also a reason why a lot of the really worst out of the communists came out of Hungary. And there's a reason why it does come from people who have a religion that is complicated. That isn't really even a religion, because to call a thing like Judaism a religion is to use a word, may I please borrow from, the that is actually not a word. It is a word of their hosts. It's part of trying to handle being marginalized and that's why all of this shit that's coming out of this stuff seems to draw the Jewish spark toward it, but it also extinguishes it cruelly. But first scapegoats it every fucking time. Don't believe me? Let's talk about it. And if you don't want to believe me, for somebody who claims to hate communism, let's just say, what if I'm right? And what if you're missing the very way to stop it? At least worth a listen, right? So, and what if I'm wrong? What did I lose? Nothing. If I'm right, it'll never happen again. And not because we defeat it with some army or a nuclear bomb or with armies or with politics. It's because we extinguish it the same way we extinguished the lunacy of human sacrifice. Or the lunacy of offering children to a god. It's remarkable when it comes back and who it gets blamed on again, isn't it? When you scapegoat somebody who's scared and is anyone, and there's a long history there, it gives you a perfect way to run. And when you try to convince them that somehow, some way, there is such a thing as the good guys and the bad guys in any situation, most of all, a situation like World War I, World War II, and even today. The more we are told bad, good, how obsessive they are with it, the more it's a lie. Now, I'm not saying that all communists are bad. I'm not even saying that Bolshevism in itself is bad. What I am saying is that socialism with power, when Bolshevism is allowed to unfurl itself through its deceptive ways and its inevitable end, because it is also denied knowledge and information to you, to me, to everyone. And when the arts get taken over by that, when art is separated from science and from philosophy, compartmentalized, STEM, it's part of the way that they got their science into everything. It's heartbreaking, really. I mean, I would imagine someone who really found, I mean, I know people who were former Marxists. They are the most, if you meet a former Marxist, a devoted Marxist, they are the ones who scream and yell and warn you the most and feel like they have to offer the most, almost amends for what they know they helped do. Wouldn't it be amazing if we were able to help all the people who were truly just useful idiots make amends? Think about how terrifying, though, that is for those who are, let's say, full devotees. And they exist. Evil, anti-human. There is worse than Hitler. Exists. Sometimes in one man, sometimes in multiple. So that night of the Dead Poets, the pogroms had been going on in Russia, and Jews had been through hell under the Tsars. often utilizing something as an excuse called the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, which was more or less just a way that landowners could control these pesky little Jews and make them seem more creepy and like a part of the deceitful dozen for spreading misinformation. I'm serious. It's one of the roots of the long-run hatred for Jews. Why? Because Jews all, by law, had to be illiterate. They could read. They all shared a language, Yiddish, whether they lived in Poland or Czechoslovakia or Russia. And that happens with the diaspora. New York diaspora. But this time we get to say it like right out front, you know. Anyway, I was just being a little... I like the idea of scaring the living shit out of the people who hurt me. Oh, you know who you are. Basically, anyone who told me that dying alone was a reasonable thing. All of you. Because you're a monster. You may be a very nice and polite monster. You may have even gone to Harvard, but you're a monster. I know you like being a monster, but I'm sick of tolerating. Tolerance is... what crimes are committed in your name? So anyway. I can see your humanity, but it just wouldn't matter to me as much as the human being that you enjoyed watching die alone. Because you did. You know you did. Or thought about it. Or getting people to get a vaccine believing that possibly those would be the last words on their lips because you didn't want to be a real doctor, but you wanted to be a doctor. A lot of that going on. Yeah. I know. See, that's the thing. If we do this right, and that's my proposal, people, we're going to be able to explain so many monsters, free so many places and institutions from them, reveal so much about the ways that some things should be tolerated, some things you just say no to. Why some things are unimaginable, and why those of us who know real violence are your biggest threat. And sparing everyone else that is also important. Artists have tried for centuries and succeeded to show what a human being is capable of doing without, getting in trouble with that human being. Under Stalinism, artists who did not comply and started to create other things were murdered, killed, disappeared. This began at first, before socialist realism really took off. The Yiddish theater in Russia. See, Russian theater, Russian art is exquisite. Very exquisite. Soviet art is not, but the Russians, as a people, Pasternak, Dostoevsky, the Germans too, really understanding Nietzsche, Rilke, keeping these thinkers, these minds from us. You don't want to, if you know you're not really very smart, you don't want very smart people reading the shit that you don't have the capacity to understand. Or you don't have the capacity to look at without judgment, jealousy, or calling it problematic. Bukowski nailed it. Unable to create art, you will not understand art, and you will see your failure as creators only as a failure of the world. I mean, you hate for that. So childish and juvenile, and I really don't give a shit anymore because of what you pushed it. You went over the line. If you had just not gone this far, maybe I could have some compassion for you, but it's all gone now. All that, no room for Nazis, never tolerate a Nazi, punch a Nazi, all that, yeah, you pretend that's how I feel. But I'm not as childish or brainwashed as you to think that that's how these things are going to go. And so the Yiddish theater was incredible. Yiddish theaters in Russia were creating work unlike anything. And what happened is that Stalin told them, because he wanted the Jews to support him. He needed them. Sound familiar? New York. He wanted to be nice to them. So he said, you can have your Yiddish theater. We'll fund it. Just nothing Jewish, no religion. And they said, okay. Now see, there's the thing. You remove something. You give an artist boundaries. A great one, they make even better art. It's something a lot of people don't understand. Especially people who can't make art. They think art comes from boundlessness. No. It does not. It might depict boundlessness or make you feel boundless, but it doesn't come from that. What is it going to do? Make itself? Come on. That's alchemy. Don't be stupid. Well, you guys do the Senkoism, so of course you're going to be stupid. Oh, follow the science. My bad. I forget sometimes. Sometimes it's hard to believe that it's really this simple. But it's all there. You write it all out there. Sometime I wish I understood the psychology of where this need to believe that life is suffering, but there is no relief for suffering, and there is no source of suffering. Like, why do you go part way and then you stop? It's like you don't like feeling uncomfortable. Feeling uncomfortable makes you so uncomfortable you don't realize that everything comes after that. Maybe that's something that we keep lumping everything into autism, and frankly, I don't think all autists are the same. So maybe we want to fix that one too. Because there's some people who are neuroatypical, who are phenomenal and savants, and then there's some neuroatypicals, and you're just a fucking pain in my ass. And I mean it. You're a pain in my ass because you guys tend to demand the world change for you and not ask for that, offer that in return. You're like all left hemisphered and childish, and no one said no to you enough. You'll be okay. You'll be uncomfortable and then you'll be okay. And trust me, it's more loving. Like, to those who hate the idea of somebody not having as much as someone else, or this illusion of thinking there's enough to be fairly distributed around everyone. It's the pursuit of happiness. Happiness is nothing. Give me, and I really learned this when you locked me fucking down. Give me curiosity. Give me something that surprises me and inspires me. Give me New York, why I was there, motherfuckers. I could tell some of you never got that. Usually, what would happen is you just leave because it would get too hard for you. But what ended up happening is you felt entitled. And that entitlement was fostered in you by those bastards. It was. these teachers and media people, I see what they are. It's abuse of the worst kind. The worst kind. And they know it. They believe that what they believe is so much more important than anything else. They will manipulate to get you there because they believe it is everything. You know when people keep saying, like, the solution is Bitcoin, the solution is Bitcoin. They sound kind of like them. That's not a bug either. Take the human being out of it. Create a solution that is outside of a human being, that is collective. Odds are you're dealing with Bolshevik. That's why they'll kill, torture, lock up, punish. You don't matter. It's the paradox of the new man. That's how I was taught to ask, if somebody was a Stalinist, was to ask them simply, what is your opinion on the new man paradox? If they don't know what it is, that means they're just a baby Marxist. They know what it is, and they defend it. Nowadays, usually with transhumanism. Or AI. But see, the AI part, like all that stuff is kind of like shows their little bit of where they don't get it. There is nothing beyond the human experience. Everything is experienced through a lens of a human experience. Period. You don't get to become a dog. Empathy is not the same thing as compassion, and you can't know something just based on knowing somebody's identity. The desire to do that comes from a very unwell place, and a very empty place, a place that can't make art. The Yiddish theater didn't come from that place at all. Jews don't come from that place at all. In fact, quite the opposite. At our core. And it's also in many ways the secret of our success. And when lacked, the secret of our failings, or hey, let me put it like this. After the Holocaust, who's left? It's not the nicest people who survive these things. I'm not saying all survivors are not nice people, but you have to start talking literally. And we don't like to talk about the dirty shit. Because it's not fair. No, they didn't deserve it. No, we didn't. And frankly, I would really rather we not have it happen again, because how many remnants? Until you have very little remnant. As long as we're alive, there's a possibility, of course, l'chaim. But there's more than that. And sometimes, like at least in my case, what have I got to lose to talk about that? And hope for it. Baruch Hashem. Why not? Especially after what they did to the Yiddish theater. So the head of the theater company thought that he was protecting the Jews from the fascists in Germany, who were systematically now killing them. Amazing thing that people didn't believe it, including Americans. We betrayed them. Much like we did, or I was betrayed about COVID. Think about it. You know I'm right. No enmity, because I want to forgive. I don't think so little of the people who hurt me, like you did, of me, that I would just give you enmity, that I would just let you get away with it. That's the stuff of children. It's amazing how fucking juvenile the people at the Atlantic really are, and have always been. Sheesh. Not wrong. Not. There's something, speaking of that, I don't know if people know this, the highest percentage of sociopaths is in media. Television, actually. Really. Remember that. I mean it. When you're dealing with most of these people, there is a higher odd that, even more than surgeons, that you're dealing with a sociopath. Now, New Yorkers from that world who are not into that, and for whatever reason, like I have no kids, I have nothing to lose, and I've left New York. I know what I'm talking about. I have an experience. And I don't have a community anymore to shun me. I have one that I want to make sure is okay. See, I keep telling you, you made a strategic error. I mean, I'm, at the very least, I'm going to be a major pain in your ass. I'm so looking forward to it. Especially after what you did to my family. I am so looking forward to it. It'll be fun. And I'm going to do it right. Because, see, that's the thing. Better dead than red. There's really nothing else that anybody will say that about. I can't think of a single other thing that I could say I would rather be dead than in the grips and the hands of that menticide. Isn't that something? Isn't that something that might make your eyes wake up and say, oh my gosh, could there really be something this evil, and that it's not just the evils of capitalism anymore, that it's the evils of whatever else, that it's evil gays, or it's evil Jews, or... Come on. You're getting conned. Seriously. Enough. The worst part about this con is that when it gets so ingrained like it is in China right now, or you can't even get out of it because it becomes its own, like, automaton. That's what Václav Havel is talking about in Power of the Powerless. We, without power now, are the most powerful. And that is something that Stalin saw. He saw that the head of the theater company felt pride that he was keeping his company safe. He felt like he was the protector of the Jews. Stalin. Stalinism could never stand to have anything visibly before it that was superior in character, because that was the threat. That would make a major problem. You noticing how that tends to happen a lot lately? Honor is now dangerous. It's a feature. It's not a bug. And it's not just any old communism. That's Stalinism. And that how dare you call Lee Zeldin a fascist? And this is where this is all coming from, buddy. Or sir. Or whatever you like to call yourself. I don't care. I'm not scared of you anymore. I know what you are. And I know some of you, even one of you I actually grew up around my whole life pretty much. I know what you are. And you showed me so much pain of people that I love. That unlike you, I have the courage to love them, me, and my city more than worry about you. Oops. But unlike you, I also can manage to be feeling uncomfortable. And I don't have any fear. Because I know you guys are afraid constantly. Because you don't have your vanguard. You just have a bunch of people that You are always worried what they're going to say or think of you, or if they're going to throw you away or hurt you, and you're constantly playing games. And that's why you shut my city down. And that's why you took the art away, and that's why you masked us, and that's why you didn't let the backstage to go into the theaters. That's why you set those policies and scared the shit out of the artists, and that they would lose their instruments because you, as a mediocre administrator, knew exactly what you were doing. You hate art. You love chaos. You love seeing Broadway shuttered. You love seeing somebody throw the idea of the show must go on away because that's the only art you know. And that's not art. It's brutality. You're a sadist and a masochist. And you get high on it. You suck other people in there too because you need an audience. I know what you are. And I'm going to keep talking about it until the day I die. Because then one day somebody will brilliantly reveal you, every inch of you, the way we did Hitler and the Nazis and their system. And never forget. You will go down in history books. You will have a new name. And you will never be able to do this again. The Night of the Dead Poets, Stalin invited all of the cast members of that theater company to a party, except the theater director. And he had them all killed, and their bodies rolled over with trucks. The theater director was left alone and to know he couldn't protect anybody. Rest in power. You sick, self-centered, evil witch. You know, witches can be good. You're the queens. Even when you're men, you're the queen in Titus Andronicus. You are the mother that has their child killed or gets sick because you want the attention. You are not the banality of evil. You are anti-human. You are cruel. And you are insecure and terrified. And you were so close. You also have, like, no self-restraint. It's really amazing. It's one of the reasons I actually think you're much more dangerous than anything that's even coming out of China. Because they at least can see time with a sensible way of looking at it. They at least have a reason that Mao rose and they went through all they went through. You have none. Except your own selfish indulgence of your ideas and you thinking your ideas matter more than a person's life. A death cult. And you'll say, thank you. Why, thank you. Of course you will. Because we're not the same. We're not. It's what other people haven't quite figured out yet. But art has figured this out. And when that director put on King Lear with his daughter, he added one line in Yiddish to the end of the play. We will outlive them. So my proposal to anyone out there who somehow saw this rant of me just rambling on and on, a glimmer of something. I have some ideas. I want to create something, a space, an opportunity, whatever it is, where we will work on a precision and a new period in art, not coming from the academia, but coming organically from a need. Think pre-Spanish flu, Austrian secessionists, or think Shakespeare, or Pasternak, or poets going on and on and on and on all the way back. We go to a place you can't touch. Can't get them. I know it drives you crazy. The jealousy is pathetic. Thank you for killing the compassionate part in me that was willing to let you destroy everything so that I could let you get through your process. I need to learn these lessons much faster. And say no and not tolerate it. Some things keep monsters at bay. And if we don't, they're going to destroy everything. Including the planet. In the name of saving the planet, of course. Because that's just what they do. Isn't it amazing? They are like chronic children. They think they're really brilliant because oftentimes they're very educated. But they're so bored. They're so bored. Some of them want a real sense of duty and purpose. But, you need to stop thinking that somehow you were born into something that made you special. Therefore, better than. That's a Wilsonian progressive myth. That by your birthright, it made you the one responsible to heal the world and lead the world because your birth, your eugenics gave you all of these opportunities. No, dear. You are failing at what you had the opportunity to do. You are failing at your responsibility. You're failing at bringing the world anywhere closer to something that got us where we are because you fail to see how you can learn. Not from where you point to and say that the marginalized, from the people that you cringe from, the ones that remind you that you were this close to being just like them. And you can't see there. You find it, this is why most hate Trump. It has nothing to do with anything other than, gosh, Cody, he's not presidential. He's makes me uncomfortable. That's it. Really. Couple that with jealousy and a sense of breaking the rules, or oh man, that's why they hate him, because they hate the fact that he'll talk about and talk to things that polite society understands. They just, Trump was just, Trump. He's like a showman. He's a Wizard of Oz meets Barnum and Bailey. You wish you were special. You're so very special. You're hungry ghosts. And you're bigots. And in some of your cases, the hate is so deep in you and you are so afraid of looking at it because you've put so much into it. It's like a sacrifice trap. Best lesson I ever learned from the best teachers I ever had. I'm not afraid of being wrong and knowing it and getting through that. Or the consequence of it. Despite your attempts to make being wrong fatal. You're sick, man. You're sick. sick, sick bastards. You really are. One day it would be amazing to have a study of you. That insecurity and sense of arrogance and like sense of, it's a fascinating thing. I mean, I guess it's what kept you alive or something. Like you're more afraid of living than you are of dying. But you really are more afraid of dying than you are of living. But since maybe you don't think there's anything else, you're like maybe it's a phobic fear of death, of nothing, vanishing, and never having that like, oh, I don't know, really great donut. An unwillingness to see awe because you think it's dumb. Judgmental assholes. And the worst of you, don't understand that in your attempts to prove your intellect, God, you've gotten stupid. And you are not smart enough to see it. And this is in part how we got here. Poets talk about this too. The figurative, the mystery, the soul, the spirit. This isn't like kitty talk and unicorns. We don't have a sky daddy. By the way, any atheist who's Jewish who says that, you really need to go talk to a rabbi. Just saying. You've been misled. They haven't liked us a lot. They tend to do that because we can get a little bit, scare them a bit. Because what's up here, the bastards can't take. When they were torturing my grandfather at Patesh prison, I sometimes wonder how it went when they tried to torture him with images of Jesus or Mary or Nate. We don't have an image for God. We don't have any images that are sacred to us. We have something else that's sacred. And that also is something that as Americans, we can relate to. So, let's make some art. Without unions, let's take the risk of it failing. That we might be able to figure out what we're going to eat. Some of the artists who have the ability do a Hail Mary and a fail-safe that we won't end up starving and alone and, dying. I mean, I'm alone here. I'm petrified that I might end up on the street because I don't know. My parents died. I'm single. So what? They took so much from us. What more could they do? If you are afraid of leaving where you are, I get it, and it sucks. But if we can make shit, and I don't know if we can, I don't know if I'm telling, we always don't know. It's always this mystery. But if we can hold space, but once you just try, we don't need a plan and a commune and all. We don't need days of it. You just start and you try and you see where it goes. Authenticity and collaboration. Humility. Education. Open mind. And unshackled from politics. That's all you need. And then before you decide to ever share it with anybody else, you decide you put the audience first. All respect goes to the audience. All respect goes to the viewer. Always. So postmodern art was dangerous because it allowed itself to be self-referential and get to the most people. Monty Python. Memes. It's populist at its core. The groundlings. Shakespeare has postmodern elements, the removal of the fourth wall. So what happened? Marxism went in and used the art to start making philosophy. And I don't really blame the French. They're like, it's because we are French. Even Foucault, even his ideas, not something. The Judith Butlers of the world, the ones who can't write for shit. Who everyone says, oh, you're so great, you're such a great writer. No, she won the worst writer award in the 90s many times running because she can't write. No, this is not a style. This is not a deconstruction. It doesn't show her brilliance. She can't write. Some people can't draw. Some people can't write. She can't write. She's mastered a way of doing something that makes your mind go a certain way, and it makes you do all the hard lifting and the heavy work and know very little. It's a con. And you're no threat to her. It's amazing, right? To all the people who have come out of that world, seen through it and fought to go to the other side, you are a rock star. You're amazing. And let's make sure they can never do it again in scale like this, or destroy any more great cities, or convince our children that we are a species in a society that doesn't value them, or the elderly. No more people need to die alone. We owe it to the artists and the audiences and the culture we lost in the 80s and 90s. Especially after forgetting what Fauci did to them. We owe it to those angels in America. You know, I'm right. If you're an artist around my age, the odds are you knew someone. So many of them recently are gone. So many of them that fought and probably shared ideologically and could even defend Marx and wants to fix it, and I agree. But much like crony capitalism is the most evil part of capitalism gone awry, Bolshevism is the darkest part, and it's basically identical. So let's unite, make some really badass art that will stop them in their tracks, and then we don't have to sit and explain it. We can. And they can. And we don't need any protection or safety. Safety fifth. Break a leg. Oh, by the way, we need to do some kind of little talk about how all of our traditions have been sort of thrown away. And I think I've seen a few times when the ghost lights being shut and the throwing and tossing around the word Macbeth and all that stuff. You know, we might need a little illumination. We got magic to do, right? Yes, we do. And the ones that... Here's a proposal. I would love to do somewhere in a live theater, if here, but anywhere. But here is just because I'm here. Rhinoceros by Eugene Ionesco. And record it. So it can be done as a radio play around in spaces so everyone can hear it. And the space can be... Twitter becomes the set. A secondary set. Space is a stage while it's on stage. I need a really good audio person. And someone help me figure it out. Because I think we need to give people room to see themselves as someone who desperately wants to be able to become a rhinoceros and can't. And seeing their friends. Are you a one-horned or a two-horned rhinoceros? It might even be fun that every time somebody says fascist at you, you just say, rhinoceros! or, rhinoceros. Just like respond in grunts. Like, what are they gonna do? Make it absurd, because it is. There's a saying in Romania, don't try to understand crazy. It makes you crazy. Also, if anyone knows how to get in touch with Andre Charbon, I'd really like to talk to him. And I'd really like to talk to any other artist who knows this stuff and see what we can do, because, my God, we have so much at our fingertips. And they'd want us to. When to the sessions of sweet, silent thought I summon up remembrance of things past, I sigh the lack of many a thing I sought in with old woes new well my dear times waste. Then can I drown an eye unused to flow for precious friends hid in death's dateless night and weep afresh love's long since cancelled woe and worry afresh many a vanished sight. Then can I grieve at grievances foregone and heavily from woe to woe tell o'er the sad account of forebemoaned moan which I knew pay, as if not paid before. But if the while think on thee, dear friend, all losses are restored and sorrows end. 30. Let's do this. It'll be fun. Okay. If you shoot me a message there, I'll give you my phone number. Let's really talk. Cut through the bullshit. And if I reach 2 of you, yeah. If I reach 1 of you, yeah. If we end up making something, anyone. I could know you for years. You could be never having done any art, and you just have always been in your soul. You could be an Oscar winner. I don't care. Let's do this. Let's just do what it is that we do, without interference from anything else. We can stop thinking that they know. And the ones that don't know, well, me too, you anyway. It's a joke. If we can joke about the casting couch for as long as we did, we can joke. Because this whole thing has been a little ridiculous. I mean, come on. It was kind of nice for a moment, though, but what we need is to remember how we got there. It has a lot more to do with people like, creating censorship than creating patriarchy. And you know I'm right. Best of all, best part about being an artist is that when we collaborate, we get to experience what it is that they wish they could create in their lifetime. That's why they hate us. And that's why we normally protect ourselves and don't get political. But a bunch of them got sucked in. And that's part of what we have to make amends for, too. Yeah, I'm looking at all of you actors and theater people and writers and great novelists who are somehow convinced that what you make is not enough and that you somehow have to, do all these good things because of your success. It's a sickness. Thank you for what you give us. It's rich. It's wonderful. It's like Shakespeare suddenly deciding that he would have to, get rid of Shylock because he's problematic. Stop it. Meyerhold would be pissed at you for this. You owe it to him. You do, actually. Maybe. Owe it to him. And about another couple 100,000, if not more people. But forgiveness will only come if you stop trying to create this perfect thing because you can't seem to manage your gifts. You don't owe anyone. This doing things for social, just doing things for social. That's not how you change the world. You fucked up. While you're trying to fix the world, you destroyed our city, our art, Broadway. You allowed people to write on Carnegie Hall. You allowed people to dare belittle Broadway. That's what you did. While you were too caught up in wanting to make sure that you made everybody else feel better. Because empathy. You were just wanting to be liked. That's it. You want to be liked so badly. You gotta go through initiation of being shunned and cancel culture. Come out the other side. Yes, it's gonna feel like dying, but you're gonna be okay. And the rest of us don't actually do to people what apparently some places do. And it looked scary. Yeah, I see it. There's some pretty dark, fucked up shit going on. Well, here we are. Let's talk. Stop hurting fellow artists. Stop it. Let's make some art. Let's do shit. And if you can't, if you're more worried about how your political and party affiliation seems to the world, I mean, for one thing, we need to get rid of all of these people that won't hire you unless you adhere. Now. And this is how we do that. Because they're assholes. I don't give a shit what you do. If you're good at what you do, I don't want to know. Deep down, you know I'm right. Do the work to forgive yourself and then fix it by just living authentically. And we'll forgive you. And we have to stop talking about our shit with everybody too. And also, don't keep giving journalists ways to fuck you over, use you, or use you as spectacle while you die. No, I'm right. People love to kill their stars. They always have. It's childish, but come on. Did build us really fucking amazing spaces in Greece, didn't it? That some people like to watch. We have to stop. We are the makers of manners. Arts education without politics is not. It's we do it because you have to, for some reason. I mean, we don't judge people getting their majors in philosophy or gender studies. Really. Gender studies is somehow much more worth of respect than art studies. Really. It's how we ended up with a bunch of gender stuff and no more androgyny. Or respect to transvestites and androgyny and and all that other things and everything going reduced now to just one thing. Come on. Come on. Rocky Horror Picture Show was about a transvestite, not a trans person. Whoever thought that was a big deal, and it was all like, well, you took the show away from the kids, meanies. Come on. I'm surprised that people didn't stand up to whoever did that. And you know what? It was probably the producers. And you guys keep doing this shit. You are really, really annoying. I know, you're laughing about it now. I know the type. I know. Well, you do great. And the kitsch, which is not really what you think it is. is all there's being made. Kind of like that moment for logo. I'm just going to say this right now. Whoever was the costume designer for Billy Porter's outfit during the State of the LGBT Union, I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago. I would love to chat with you sometime. I'm just curious about what your intention was. I don't really want to know you. Same with the guy who actually did all the direction for the Biden's inaugural, for Biden's inauguration. I think he was in a tie and just felt a tie, and as macabre and fucked up, I was like, Pellet, bravo, boy, like bravo. But you don't get to have all the fun. So get better at it. Let's go. And hope somebody enjoys this. Went on for like an hour and 16 minutes. Why not? Hey, let's talk art. Let's do it. And if we talk about it well, it's like the dancing nurses. You can show people what it is and they're grateful. It touched that part of people that always love what we do when we are authentic about it and doing it because we love the craft and the generosity. Not because you got cast in something and you feel entitled. You should be fired. There shouldn't be an article about you in Vulture. Yeah, Vulture. You're the problem. Yes. I assume you're somebody who's always been really loved the theater and you like to write, but you also like gossip stuff. I kind of know the type. Stop being mean to everybody because you were insecure and people were mean to you, or you just don't like things. Go make shit that's mean or something, but stop ruining it for everybody else. Come on. It's gross. Stop it. You don't need to do that to leave a mark, okay? Yeah. The cattiness and the bitchy like thing. That works when you're really extraordinary. When you're not, you're just gonna feel like a dick one day. It's gonna suck for you. I want better for you. I really do. I know it looks like I'm like faking it here. It's because my wanting better for you doesn't get much bigger than this. Because I don't know you. Right? Don't miss out on what New York does for people either. 20 years, 30 years, 40 years of a city where we didn't have time for the shit that you've all brought. You're missing out. You're cheating yourself. And you're being cheated by a few people. It's going to be a lot of fun if I ever get to face the people who wouldn't let me go to the theater. And we know why. And it had nothing to do with COVID. Nothing to lose when you take it all. That's what you'll never get, and that's what you're missing, the love of it. You just love yourself. Oh, left hemisphere. It's a shame, too, because sometimes you help make amazing stuff. But you don't believe that anybody could be so moved by it, that it was that good, that will end up fighting for what you created, despite you. Because you're not surrounded by people who do that. They'll cancel you, they'll cancel your work, they'll kill you. Because Marxism doesn't see art. It sees socialist realism or formalism. And as Meyerhold said, by hunting formalism, you are destroying art. He got tortured and killed. And his wife got stabbed and our eyes got out. And we still use his stuff everywhere. Beautifully. The Joker, oh my gosh. Joaquin Phoenix, freaking movements there, unreal. Hamilton, choreography. We owe him. Stalin, rest in power. Everyone else, break a leg. Leave the ghost light on. The process. Making it. And yeah, all of the glamour without any of the glamour. They're stealing from you too. My advice to anybody who's over there, study glamour. Glamour, it gave us something also. It was for the audience. Stop making everything about making amends for politics for the past. Just make good art. Open the doors. Don't do something in the spirit of great playwrights that were trailblazers, that artists gave room for them to tell their story so we could really try to figure these things out. Don't take away and turn things like The Minstrel into something you can never even see to learn from. There is no such thing as art that can't teach and explain something better than censoring. Those things, the hatred and the contempt, is now going into your attempt to stifle it, and you know it. And you're doing no one any favors. And you know it. And those of you who don't know it, they should be apologizing to you for not giving you the chance to learn it. Is that the best stuff? I am appalled that we don't yet have a community that if they heard that somebody dared to reveal and say that they give only 75% of their, or they were masking their audiences. We had a culture that died that wouldn't have stood for that, because if you even simply moved your finger out of place, that was the tragedy. If you were in the New York Ballet, because there was something that was beyond us, time, a thing passed along and along that mattered. And if you were going to do it, you did it right, because so much went into it. Leave the ghost light on. You masked audiences. You forced actors to audition for you with a vaccine that you didn't know was going to be okay for their bodies. We have too much money going into administrators, unions, and nonprofits. Melding, we have so much politics melding into this stuff that we have become slaves. And we have to liberate ourselves from them. I know it's scary, but let's go for it. I will never do anything that is not a collaboration with a union. I will never do anything simply because the union will threaten me. I'm here now, Celeste, where musicians play everywhere. Unions killed that. And I don't want to hear that it allowed musicians to somehow make enough of money. No, you took away their opportunity to do their work and choose when they were too exhausted to keep trying. They never got the chance to even give up because they had to. You've made so many fewer suffering artists that were never artists. Sometimes really talented media people, even writers, even playwrights. And you know that I'm right. To Just because you do something well doesn't mean you're an artist. That's why people sometimes go to LA and start writing for a sitcom. And occasionally they're artful. And other times, they just do the, pay the bills. And that's okay. Be a performer, man. Be like a rock and roll Jesus with a cowboy mouth. Be a performer. And be okay with that. And nobody without the glamour can really make you a star. They just make you a spectacle. And it all goes to advertisers and nothing else. You know I'm right. You're reinforcing the very cronyism that you claim to be fighting. You're diminishing and destroying the very things that you claim to cherish. Because you have to risk getting it wrong. And never living to see. Just like Meyerhold never got to do Hamlet.